1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Lay It on the Table, the Southern Board Game Podcast with the accent on Southern. As per usual, I am one of your hosts, Joe Mahaffey, and it is great to be here, of course, as always, with my co-host and partner in crime,
James Englehart. Good to be here, Joe. How you doing, sir?
Good. I just evidently pushed down on the keyboard and got a weird noise.
Okay. No, it's sometimes, lunches can do that. Yeah.
My chair is being aggressive today. What can I tell you? Well, I know it's been a month since we were together, but I did drop like 3 episodes altogether. So it's not like people necessarily missed us per se, but we're back.
I hope not. Yeah. Yes, here we are.
So, I'm hoping that we can get back into the swing of things of maybe even having some people that we can interview. I'm working on a few things that go all the way back to Mythicon back in November when we got together in person. But we'll see how that comes together. But I'm also working some angles. I saw Christina Stiles, friend of the show, recently. Talking about some ideas. So we'll see how that comes together.
How's she doing?
She's doing good. She's doing good.
Good.
She's actually, I forget who it was, and I will be better this way because that way we can have her on to talk about it. There's an organization where somebody, I want to say somebody passed away, and therefore they're trying to complete a Kickstarter. And so she's been brought in to kind of help close the gap in the production process. I don't remember I want to say it's Savage Worlds related, but I could be conflating what she was doing when I saw her.
No worries. Yeah.
So I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on it. So let's get her back on the show here soon and maybe have her bring us up to speed on what's it like to be a post-pandemic publisher in the TTRPG space.
Yeah.
There was an opportunity for alliteration in there, and I feel like I missed it.
Yeah, it's the TTRPG. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah. She'll teach us something about. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
So, for the news and notes section, I don't really have anything new to pop into this space just because I feel like last year we put this section in because it was all OGL and all Wizards of the Coast all the time. And now it's just kind of not. Yeah.
Things are coming out. Things are moving along. Sales are good.
Yep.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed, though, is even the influencers out there, ranging from Professor Dungeon Master to Bob the World Builder, they've all kind of gone back to the content. Now, they do some episodes here and there about surveys and different things like that. But fundamentally, it is what we thought it would be, other than I'm still waiting for a lot of that other content to come out and probably, talk about that. Like I haven't really seen, and maybe it's just I've quit paying attention for it, but I kept waiting for the Paizo books to show back up in the stores, and I just haven't noticed them. Yeah,
I've been also. We'll see what happens with the 1D&D thing too, because that's coming up over the horizon.
Yeah, but I did see one of the guys, and I want to say it was Professor Dungeon Master, but I've watched a few of them, so I could be conflating it in my brain. But it just seems to me that by the time they get the new books out, the 3rd book in the trilogy that they typically put out a player's guide, a dungeon master's guide, and a monster thing.
Monster manual. Yep.
The trilogy is not going to be ready in time for Christmas this year.
Okay. So
that really says that maybe they shouldn't have laid off all those book people.
Well, there's that too. And maybe 5e has still got legs, which it seems to.
It does. You know how it is. It's like it's kind of like computer software. People, there are early adopters. There are people that run out and get the latest thing, right? But most
Don't
people
know anybody like that, Joe. Joe feels personally attacked now. Yeah,
I don't. I don't know who you could be referring to. No, but the funny thing is, I'm not like that. I was much more like that when I was younger, but now I kind of like to have stability.
Oh yeah.
I don't always just I will generally wait so great example, iPhone
Have you
update.
worked the bugs out yet? Yeah.
iPhone update, I always read the articles and what people are saying before I upgrade because I don't have time for a bricked phone. I've never had a
That's
bricked phone.
fair.
I'm not suggesting that the phones are ever bricked, but
You
I do try
don't
to pay
want.
attention to, well, I just try to pay attention to it. So anyway, so
Yep.
I think that, everybody that's gone into 5e, they're probably going to stick with it for a while, particularly since there's so much 5e content out there that is not 5e adjacent. I think I told you.
When they haven't even played out. Yeah. Yeah.
I think I told you that even Foundry Virtual Tabletop Games got an official 5e input from Wizards of the Coast.
Okay.
Tells me they're pretty convinced that there's going to be content out there for 5e.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I think people really, I mean, there are people who don't, but 5e has done so much for that game. So
yeah, 100%.
I don't think they want to, move that golden goose too far right now. So
yeah. So anyway, nothing really controversial, nothing big in the headlines on this. I'm just kind of noting that it's kind of quiet out there. That's what I'm noticing.
It is. And you know what else is quiet? This is my little segue. Butterflies, Joe. Butterflies are quiet.
Butterflies have been on, they've been on the table. Yes. So
okay.
So just to kind of catch some of you up, so I did a small group, my wife and I, and friend of the show, Grace, did a little small group at Carolina Tabletop Games, not a sponsor.
I know.
And it was associated with my church, Harrison United Methodist Church, also not a sponsor.
Also not a sponsor.
But they've been around. They've been at that same location since 1785. We're going to give them a pass.
Oh man, they need to. Okay, all right.
Yeah, 1785. Anyway,
things could go bad any minute.
So just a little bit of the backstory. There was a pandemic and everybody went inside.
In 1785?
Sure,
sorry,
why not? Yeah,
sure.
Why not? We'll go with that. There's one every 100 years.
Sure.
No. So back during the pandemic, people quit doing things in person and they went online and all this other stuff. And so the church now is trying to get people engaged again. And I'm
community building, right?
Yeah. And I've taken on this idea of, there's plenty of people out there that are doing small groups around Bible studies or books or whatever. I want to just get people out and doing stuff together. So everything I've been involved in has really been in that vein. And so what we did is we created a small group around board games. Only one was
be on brand. That's good.
Was really religious themed, right?
I see that. Yeah.
The rest of them were just games that I felt were important to build a gateway into the hobby and to build a vocabulary for gaming. And so we did this over 8 weeks where we played the same game 2 weeks in a row, etc. So since we've been back together, we did Mariposas, which is another Elizabeth Hargraves. The first game we did was Wingspan. Did that for 2 weeks. I think we've talked enough about Wingspan on this particular venue.
But Elizabeth Hargrave, always good to talk about. We're going to talk about her more, I think.
That's right. And then we also did Parks out of 59 Parks out of Georgia for 4 weeks. That was the 4 weeks. Then we did Mariposas for 2 weeks, and the Mariposas was great. It was nice to teach a mechanic, and boy, I did not realize how much people really love butterflies.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I knew it was like a thing in the game, but when everybody that sat down to play was like, "Oh, butterflies! I love butterflies." Oh, Mr. Khan. I heard it pronounced.
I don't know about dwarves and elves, but butterflies, hell exactly.
Yeah. So we had a good time with that, and it was good to kind of get back into that game and just remember the things that I liked about it. It still holds true that it's very much once you get certain things out on the board, you can plan ahead.
Oh yeah.
And so that was
and it's hard to stomp on other people's dreams. So yeah.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, it was,
at least in Mariposas and other places, not so much, but yeah.
So we did that. Go ahead. You gotta.
Oh no, I was just gonna say Red Rider Games has a game coming out called Gateway Island, which is a series of I want to say like 19 or 20, maybe 50, I don't know, some number of mini games that teach lots of little mechanisms. So speaking of getting people into the hobby, that's something to look out for Q2. I
Well,
guess we have some news. Okay, there we go. All right.
that is some
So
news.
Mariposas, and then, well, and again, this is what I'm, when you're deep into geekdom, you think, oh, it's got to be fantasy, science fiction. Butterflies, birds. These are all good things.
Well, I mean, Hargraves kind of leans into that. I mean, other than, Wormspan, which I think is more Hargraves and adjacent, but I think, she's
Yes.
always created access for those in the hobby or for people to find the hobby that don't have the typical tropes of the hobby.
Right. Yep.
You know, there are no settlers. Well, I guess the butterflies could be settlers.
Butterflies are natives.
Fair, fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so we did that, and then we moved into the one religious game, which was the axe. Which I think I've talked about previously on this podcast as being a really nice game for the mechanics in and of itself, but also it nails the theme of the Acts of the Apostles
Oh,
and
you did not
running
say nails. You did not say.
it. I did, yeah, I did say that. It very much reflects
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. Yeah.
that story, and I think it's good because having been involved at Harrison for 30 plus years and working
Jeez,
with
wow.
youth, as a volunteer, we've always tried to bring games into that aspect of things, and they were always hokey,
Yeah.
campy, didn't really
Yeah.
quite scratch that itch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and this one does. And so I was
That's
very pleased with
awesome.
that. So we did that for a week. And then because it was an 8-week program, the 8th week, which was on the 24th, Sunday, the 24th, I brought Axe again, but I also brought everything we had played, and
Cool.
I brought some things that we didn't play.
Hmm.
So I'd included in the bag, Flamecraft, I included Wormspan, and we had just received Let's Go to Japan.
Ah, okay.
So
I'm
we took
intrigued
all
by this.
those,
Yeah.
we took all those in, and so there's a family in the small group. There was actually a family of 4, mom and a dad, and their 2 daughters. Ironically, their last name is Harrison, no
Uh,
relation,
that's hilarious. Yeah.
mainly because he is actually from Tasmania,
Oh,
and she is from Latin America. I
okay.
want to say Mexico, but I'm probably wrong, so I'm just going to say Latin America. And so their youngest daughter, who's really cool. Well, both of their daughters are like super cool. She goes, "Do you think we could play as a family today?"
That's
Like, sure,
sweet.
absolutely, not a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you want to play? And I had brought the Flamecraft, and she saw the Flamecraft, and so it was over. So we set up the Flamecraft.
How old is this little one?
Oh, she's like 15.
Nice. Okay. Yep. Nope.
So
That would be
now
perfect.
their
Yeah.
daughters
Right.
are like
Yeah.
15 and 20, right?
Okay. Yeah. But like 15 Flamecraft is yeah, I can see
Perfect.
that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so we set them in motion, and
It's a
and
little cute, but also dragons. Oh,
yeah.
yeah. No.
So
Yeah.
so they
Sky
had a
squeezed a lot with Flamecraft. So yeah.
great time with that. Great time
Oh, that's
with that.
fantastic.
And I've seen them since, and they've talked about how enjoyable that was. And so
Oh,
we're
it's awesome.
ironically, the 2 daughters have been in D&D campaigns where the DM just quit.
Oh.
So we're gonna do a
Yeah,
one
yeah.
shot kind of thing and try to help them reboot that. And
Late teens, it can be hard to get
yeah,
DMs to actually, yeah.
do the work.
Uh-huh. Ride that pony all the way to the end. Yeah.
I'm gonna put a pin in that because Roberta, a friend of the show, and I were talking about that last.
Yeah.
Chris and Roberta and I were talking about that
Yep.
last. So we'll get into that in just a minute. So we'll keep on track here.
Cool. Yeah.
Which is so the Flamecraft thing was great. Dale and I
That's
taught
awesome.
everybody else, Let's Go to Japan, and we had
Yeah.
the full bit. Um we had the 5-player variant, we had the cups, we had the mats. And boy, I tell
So
you,
is this a Kickstarter, like, give me all of the smorgasbord of Japan, which
yeah,
seems like I'm really doing a bunch of cross-cultural mashup there, but yeah.
Yes, it's exactly right. It's a smorgasbord goulash of let's go to Japan.
Ah, yeah. You even did more
And
mixing. Ah, I love you for that,
well,
man. Thank you.
the funny thing about it is, a friend of mine from the game store, who's a local police officer, had pinged me at the time, like, "Hey, are you backing Let's Go to Japan?" And I was sort of like, "No." Then I looked at it,
Oh,
and I looked at it some more, and I
and
ended
then
up backing
love
it.
bloomed in your eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think at the time too, my oldest daughter was in Japan, so
Oh, yeah.
probably helped. So we get this, and I got to tell you, first of all, AG, the publisher, did an amazing job, just the packaging, because it comes in a box. There were 3 boxes in there: one box for the game, one box for the neoprene mats, and then one box for the 4 ceramic bowl for your bits.
Wow.
Right. And then the base game was wrapped in a scarf that had a lot of the icons, like Japan based icons on the scarf.
Oh,
You know what? I'm going to go grab it because we do have video.
AG knows how to
I'll,
do some
I'll be,
shit.
I'm
That's
going to go,
amazing.
I'm going to go grab it because I also have my water over there. So
Okay,
vamp,
I'll
and
just vamp for a
we can
minute.
do an edit here if I have to.
I can vamp. Yeah. No, that's so there's this whole Maneki Neko thing going on. I mean, the art is just it has both the white open clarity as well as the kind of crunchy combined stuff that you would expect if you're looking at a game that's all about Japan. Lots of we've got the mountain there, and we've got the buildings, and then here's Joe juggling. Oh my God, so many things. And the ceramic bowls is really kind of the kicker. And that's when I said, "No, touch me there." And she said, "I'd never do that again."
I'm leaving that in.
Oh, no, you should. It'll be pretty funny.
So this was the game. This
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. No, and that's yeah. That is
Uh,
beautiful.
and then the neoprene player mats came in its own
Oh,
box.
yeah.
So clearly they're going to
And
have
it's not like a throwaway box either. It's like
no.
this is a pretty thing that they've yeah.
And then the ceramic bowls.
And it's clearly labeled ceramic token bowls.
Yes. So those all came with it, and the base game was wrapped in this.
Oh, that is wow. So it's like, is that silk with screen print on it?
I don't know if it's silk or faux silk, but
Yeah, faux silk is probably fair. And that's good. Yeah, you can take that to a lobster.
it was
Yeah,
wrapped up in that. It was very cool the way they did it, and
that's
then
nice. And it leads into the whole Japanese packaging and branding. And yeah, it's beautiful.
exactly. And what we really liked
Nicely done,
about it,
y'all.
was super easy to learn.
Okay.
I mean, I think we watched maybe a 5-minute video on YouTube to kind of get the gist of it, and then we jumped right in.
What's the main mechanism in it? Because I don't really.
Okay, so here's the deal on it. So you are going to Japan. You are planning your week in Japan,
Awesome.
Monday through Saturday.
Okay.
And your choices are to do things in Kyoto or Tokyo.
Okay.
And so you're drafting cards. And it
Ah,
happens simultaneously. There are 13 rounds. And sometimes you're grabbing a Kyoto card and a Tokyo card. You're looking at them, you're keeping one, and you're passing the other to the person to your left or right, depending upon the number of players and what round you're on.
right on.
And then in some segments, you're picking up 2 of each and keeping 2. But because the way you pass, sometimes you just pick up what you've been passed. So it's
Okay.
like from the deck, from the deck, from your mat, from the deck, from the deck, from your mat kind of thing ish.
Okay.
So in the 13 rounds, you should have 18 cards minimum.
And this is whether it's 2 or 4 or however many players.
Right. Right. And then so what you do is you're either choosing your 1 or 2 cards. It's either Kyoto or Tokyo. And there's certain things you're doing on each day that you get extra bonuses if they happen to be represented on your card. So it could be shopping, it could be an event, it could be visit a temple, something like that. And so you're trying to
Awesome.
kind of get those things together. Plus, they have a mechanism that calculates your mood. You stayed at a very expensive hotel and you paid some extra yen for it. So you're kind of in a bad mood.
Oh, okay.
Or you stay, but you had a really nice meal there and it was really good.
I was
So
gonna say, yeah.
yeah. So it's this whole back and forth of this mood thing. And
Okay.
you can either, depending upon how far you go on the mood tracker, if you get all too far down on the mood tracker, you lose points. And then if you go about too far, if you go up on the mood tracker, you can gain points, and those can actually counteract each other. So you could lose 3 points, but gain 5 points in net two, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's all on everybody's mat governs that. So you have, everybody's got their own set of tokens and such to do all that.
Nice.
And then, so you're placing the card, you're planning out your week, and then at the end of it, you basically score your week. And the thing is, if you have a Kyoto card and a Tokyo card adjacent to one another,
Uh-oh.
you better have a train ticket. And if you
Okay.
don't have a train ticket, no problem. We'll give you a train ticket. It just takes away 2 points. So there's things that you do that as you earn bonuses. If you have all three of the bonuses, one of your choices is to gain a train ticket that's worth 2 extra points, and it improves your mood because it's a luxury train.
Nice.
And oh, by the way, everybody starts at least with one free train ticket that is net neutral. Doesn't give you points, doesn't take away points.
But
Now,
it just lets you jump from one to the other. Got it.
Right.
Okay.
It's got a really neat mechanic too, that if you look at it and you're like, I don't like either of these cards, you can take a walk where you put that card down, you grab another card of your choosing, Tokyo or Kyoto.
Oh, okay.
You cannot look at it. You just put it down. You take a walk token and you save it to your round. And when you're scoring the week, you flip it over and you decide, do you want to keep it as walk and get 1 point guaranteed, or take the other side? You have the choice, which I think is an interesting mechanic. They have one other.
Yeah. Sort of a Monty Hall, like, yeah.
But when
yeah. I like that. Yeah.
But when you do that, you also get a research token.
Oh.
Actually, it's 2 research tokens. And so the research tokens, what they do for you, when you take a walk, you get the research tokens. Each token is worth a point at the end of the game, or during your turn, if you're like, I don't like these cards, I have this token from my walk, I'm going to turn it in and I can take 3 cards. So now I have 5 cards in my hand.
Okay. So I'm feeling pine cones from Cascadia and lots of other, like,
well,
this lets you compensate for the randomness of the card draw and getting stuck.
And it also provides that thing from Wingspan. Take 3 cards, or take an extra card. If you do and keep it, you have to put another card back. So you still have the same net number when you're done. Same thing here. So
yeah. But it lets you move through the deck and
and it's moving very fast because everybody, technically everybody's doing all this simultaneously.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it moves very quickly. You can play this game super fast. So like Wednesday we're going to play it because we want to play a game. We don't have a lot of time, so we can blow through it. And
but it sounds like it plays the same whether you've got 2 or 5.
Yes.
Wow.
And so it's very cool the way that they've done it. So I know we spent a lot of time on it, but I think the mechanic of how the card drafting works and how you score points, and it's very well balanced. I mean, the first 3 times we played it, I think I got 128 points every time.
That's hilarious. And how did Dale do?
Kind of in the same ballpark. She lost the first couple and then won the next couple, but but the thing is, just like Wingspan, you're playing your own game. You really can't hurt somebody else. You really can't pay attention to what they're doing.
Awesome.
You're playing your game. And it's basically you're playing the week. So the way you scored is you kind of go left to right. And every time you switch between Kyoto and Tokyo, you have to have that train ticket. And if you don't, you got to take the hit. And then certain benefits at the bottom, there's certain benefits at the bottom of each card that you can only take advantage of if you've experienced it prior to that day. So if you have you must have done this and it doesn't come till later in the week, you can't take that advantage. A lot of really interesting things. So you have to think through where am I going to place these cards and how am I going to get there? And the last thing I'll say about it is, because you're putting 3 cards, you put the first card down. The second card you put in that row or that column you then decide, is it going over the card that's I see or under it? And when you can't change it.
Oh,
So you got to decide
okay.
what's the value at the bottom you're going for. So I mean, there's just a lot to it that kind of gives you different levers to pull. So I'm very excited by this game,
Yeah.
obviously, because I think this is the most I've talked about a game and its mechanics
Yeah,
ever.
yeah, yeah.
But anyway, so that's let's go to Japan. And so that's been on our game table. Our oldest daughter was home for the holiday break this past weekend,
Hmm.
and I was doing something else and didn't have time to play, and she wanted to learn it, and for the first time, Dale sat down and taught her a game, and the
Wow. Oh,
two of
that's
them
super
played it,
cool.
and it was funny watching her play it. Like she wasn't playing to win; she was like, "Well, I was in Japan and I really wanted to go here, or I went here and I really,
That's awesome. Oh,
so."
that's so. And and so Let's Go is the big title, and then to Japan. Do you imagine that they're going to do other Let's Go titles? Could
I would
be.
I would think
We
that
don't know.
I
AEG is a
don't
big company. They might. Who knows?
I
Okay.
don't know. They could. I mean, I could see them,
Okay.
you know, but I would
Let's
have
go
to
to
be.
Baton Rouge. No,
Did you just
I've
say
stunned
calling
him.
Baton
Sorry,
Rouge?
y'all.
Are we getting sued by Garth Brooks now because you said calling Baton Rouge? I don't know.
Go to Baton Rouge. Yeah. Yeah. So, all
Yeah.
right. Yeah. No, but it seems like it would be set to like you tweak the cards a little bit there. I mean, I could see it, kind of, yeah, I could see a whole series of Let's Go.
Somewhere
Yeah.
that a lot of people want to go. I mean,
Yeah.
allegedly, according to Condé Nast, which I don't really read very often. I only know
Okay.
this because I think I saw an article that said this. At one time, the most popular destination for Europeans in America was Charleston.
Ah, well, that makes sense.
So
Somewhere in the 1890s.
let's go to Charleston. I don't know.
Let's go to Charleston. Let's go to
Anyway,
Savannah. Yeah.
there you go.
We are with the accent on Southern. So,
Yes. Yes. We can go hang out in the midnight in the garden with good and evil.
there it is. So
It's either that or go to the Lady and Son and get a bunch of,
go to the
go.
Beacon.
Just
Yeah.
go.
Let's go to the Beacon. Well, no, let's not.
I'm still working off that weight from college.
I was gonna say. Man. Whew.
Yeah, the Beacon in Spartanburg, South Carolina, folks.
There it is. Yeah. Do they still do the I was just thinking about this on Easter was just the other day. Do they
Yeah.
still do the sunrise service in the cars where people are on the PAs?
No idea.
Neither do I. Okay.
Yeah, I was in
That was a
Spartanburg
blast from the
on
past.
Sunday, but not till later in the day.
And did not go to the everlasting sweet tea carafes there. Yeah.
No. I'll just say it this way. When you have the opportunity to go have my mother-in-law's cooking, you're not going anywhere else.
Oh, okay.
That's a plug. That's a very nice, polite plug. But
Awesome.
so those are
Some
my
of us are lucky that way. Yeah. So we
video
had
games. You're like all over the place.
Darlington.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we had Darlington Haven game night a little while ago. There were six of us, and I was like, okay, we could split into two groups of three. And everybody was like, or do we have games that can play? Do you have games that can play like six of us? So we played Seven Wonders and Citadels, which is Citadels is a throw. Oh, they're both kind of a throwback, of course. This is
Yeah.
the my section is always going to be the games instead of the new hotness, the fully cooked and sitting on the stove for a while. So
That's okay.
Seven Wonders, classic card drafting game, which is you were talking about like, what are you doing with these cards? So, pick one, pass the rest, the sort of grandfather of all of that. You can get resources from your cards that have been played or from the people next to you. You pay them money, build one of the Seven Wonders of the classic world. And it was super fun. So I was playing, Tim and I had played it many, many times, and nobody else had played it. And I had kind of pulled it off the shelf as a maybe last minute substitution.
Mhm.
And thank God between the two of us, we could teach it. So I was like, I was not really prepared to do a full teach of this game. but people were into it. It was super fun. They're like, I don't really generally like games like this, but this is really good. I'm like, yes, it is a contemporary classic for a reason.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was just super fun for like, I'm losing badly. This is fantastic. So I always love that. Be like, yep, I'm screwing this up, but I'm still having a good time.
Nice.
And then we ended up the night with Citadels. Also plays well with the full. I mean, again, with Seven Wonders, it's all kind of simultaneous, and Citadels is a little less simultaneous. But you've got a set of character cards, you draft them, and a couple of them, one or two of them, are out of the game face down, so you don't know exactly who's got what role. Um, each role gives you special actions. We I like to play a friendly game where there's an assassin card that says you can't play your turn.
Hmm.
And I always take it to mean that your character can't do their special power, but you can do the basic actions of a player, which actually is really great for keeping the game moving. Because otherwise you can have people just kind of stall out, and that's no fun, and it keeps going, and you don't necessarily want that. So
Right.
first person to build 8 buildings ends the game, but the scores are based on how much gold everybody has spent on their buildings. So there's this nice tension of you can push the game quickly to the end, and you might have a whole bunch of little bitty buildings, and someone has two really big buildings, and maybe they win, but maybe you've got more on them, and yeah, so there's a nice tension there.
Cool.
Yeah, and again, it plays. I mean, it's been in print for a long time at this point. And I've got this old version that has these. The money tokens look like little candies, and it's like, that's so tasty. But no, that's just money.
That's
Uh,
that's funny. No, I see it all the time
yeah, yeah,
in the game store. I mean, it's always on the shelf. I mean, to your point, it's a deep cut, as they say.
it is, and it's in a square box now. I have this sort of. It was called the Silver Line for Fantasy Flight back in the day, and they had these sort of rectangular boxes, very small. And the candies, they look like yeah, little butterscotch lozenges. And so you have to keep your children away.
That's
And
fair.
then Laura and I played, we've had end of the night, a lot of like doing a lot of stuff. So playing a lot of Four Shuffle. So that's been super fun.
Tell me
We
about this
play
game. I'm looking at it, and for
which
some reason,
one?
for a shuffle. Have we talked about this before?
We have talked about Four Shuffle, yeah.
Okay,
It's
that's what
so
I
good.
thought because I was like, I've seen this. For some reason, I thought, do I have this?
You might, I don't know. It's these
I think
really
I do.
fantastic.
No, I think I would know if I would think I would know.
At some point, we have these collections. You're like, oh yeah, okay. I have friends who are like, oh yeah. And then I came home and I found out that I had the same game still in shrink on my shelf. And like, yeah. Yeah, so Four Shuffle is you've got um three kinds of well, two kinds of cards. You've got trees or you've got others, and it's going to be either other little plants or animals, and the cards are either split down the middle horizontally, so you've got a left and right side, or vertically, and you've got a up and down side, and you have to pay to play the card with other cards from your hand, and that goes to a common face-up discard so that your opponents, depending on how many you're playing, can draft from there, or they can pull face down off the top of the deck. And so you're trying to like not give your opponent really good stuff, while also playing the things that you really need to play. Some really nice tensions. I mean, by the time you've played it a couple of times, you can play it super quick, which is what Laura and I do. And then I think the third or fourth time I played it with people who were not Laura and me, and they had an entirely different approach to it and kicked my ass. And I was like, this is why it's good to have other people who do not see things, the world the same way that you do, because you can learn from them. So, um, And like in the last game that we played, sometimes the forest gods smile upon you and give you deer and wolf, which are very powerful cards in combination in your opening hand. And then you draw, there are three wolves in the game. And I drew another one, and you think, oh, I'm going to win this, and there's nothing that anybody can do to stop me.
And
And
then they
you
do.
feel, and you know, and then you feel sad for the person across from you because, yeah, because it is just, I am inevitable. Yeah, but then that actually didn't work out. So forget that metaphor.
Got it.
Yeah, but no, it was I mean, I did pull into just drew some amazing cards. And this is the interesting thing about a game like Forest Shuffle or others that are card based, where you're like, sometimes if you get the cards, there's just nothing your opponent can do. And you're like, well, and sometimes I've been on the other side of that. So, you're like, well, that just I'm trying to keep my head above water in it. Just, yeah, sometimes it works.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I mean, it's but it also I've there's also been moments let me say it this way. Yes, you're right. It's
Mhm.
interesting when that happens. However, I've been in more often not than not the situation of just kind of looking at the things that I'm racking up, thinking, "Boy, I'm really just running away with this game."
Uh-huh.
And then you realize, no, you lost,
Yeah.
and she ran away.
Yep. I've been there too.
Yeah, so
You're like,
that's
I think I've got it. Oh hell. Oh, I miss. Oh no. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's kind of an
So
amazing moment too. You're like, oh
I'm more
hell.
often on the receiving end of that than the other.
Yeah.
Just thought I would
Yeah.
just kind of call that out.
Hmm.
So anyway, it's funny
Yeah.
uh, how that works out sometimes.
Yeah. On the other side of things, so I talked about getting Scholars of the South Tigris for my birthday. It was very
Yes, I
exciting.
remember that. Yep. Awesome.
Hmm. So I worked through it as a three-handed solo, um, and there's just I'm sorry for that little piratey interlude there, but there's just a whole lot going on. It's a fascinating game. One of the things that's really fun about playing a game, you're like, okay, I think this is how it's going to happen, and then you're like, huh, this other person is running away. What did I do playing them to make them win by so much? Uh, but it was just a lot of fun to just explore all of the different systems and how they interacted with each other.
Sure.
And so I'm looking forward. We'll have game night here in a couple of weeks, and I think this is the first time I'm going to say, okay, I want to play this. Here's a link to a how to play video. Here's a link to the rule book. Um, I'll do a brief teach, but if I do this teach, it's going to take up a half an hour at least. So let's make sure we're all on the same page before we gather and do this.
Nice.
And and that's the first time I've ever done that. So we'll see how that goes. I will report
Well,
back.
I'd be curious to know how that does play out for you because it's interesting the way you unpack that is because when I did my little small group, I did that one time.
Oh, okay. How'd that go?
Well, I sort of kind of sent them the 3 minute board game guy.
Yeah.
So this is how you play Wingspan in about 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. All right. So just like here's a broad
Yeah.
brush. Here's how you paint this. Yeah.
Yeah. He's the New Zealander.
Ah.
His wife's in the parliament over there. I think we tried to get him on the show and he
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
politely said, my wife's in parliament and I'm kind of a stay-at-home dad. I really don't have the extra time. So we'll hit him up. We'll try to get him on. Anyway. Um, so yeah, that was not the right video to teach. I just decided, you know what? For me, because we broke up into two groups, I was just gonna my belief is teach everybody the mechanics, get a round out of the way, and all of a sudden they begin to pick it up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No.
It's harder for something like because I think I mean Scholars of the South Tigris is probably bottom line a 2 hour game.
Yeah.
It says 60 to 90 minutes, and I think they're lying. That doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense to me
Two
at all. I
players
mean,
that
it
two players that know what they're doing.
exactly. Yeah, once y'all have gotten into it, there's no way in hell that game is going to be less than 2 hours on a first run through. So yeah, I mean, so you know, it'll be good though. Um,
And then it looks like you had the perfect game for Lent.
oh yeah, yeah, beer and bread. Huh. No, it will be good. Um, so yeah, so beer and bread, and I've talked about this before, I
Yeah.
think, but Laura and I were back into it. This is a really tactical two-player card drafting game, and this reminds me a little bit, I think, what you were talking about Let's Go to Japan is, you pick a couple and then you're passing them back and forth, or maybe there's a common on other rounds, common market where you're swapping back out, but you're just swapping your card out for what's there and then playing that one. The multi-use cards are great because they've got either resources at the top, the contract / recipe to fulfill in the middle, or an upgrade. And the upgrade is either in-game bonuses or end-game bonuses. Then the tasty thing is that all the cards are good, and you're like, I want all of these. I don't want to give you any of these. Yeah. Um, and Yeah, and this combos are possible, but they don't always show up. And so you're trying to, yeah, do all of that kind of stuff. Uh, Super interesting. Played, let's see here. And we've got, oh yeah, there we go. And then so my students, they finished their second big project. So we had a game night or game day. They were very excited by this. They were like, and I had students go, yes, when I said we were going to go down to the lounge to play. So that's where I played the game, um, Just One and Flux with my students, and at a different table, one of the guys who works at the game shop, Boardwalk,
Also,
taught. Yeah, also not a sponsor. Uh, Tim, hello. And then he
we're
taught
willing to take
Carcassonne.
sponsorship though, just
Oh,
saying.
oh, absolutely, yeah. Taught Carcassonne, and I was hearing him starting to teach, and I was like, Miles, don't do the farmers. And he was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, cool. So, but it was fun to hear the students. So a group of them, and then oh man, it's just so fun to hear 18, 19-year-olds playing Carcassonne, like, build the city, build the city. And then suddenly somebody else gets in, they're like, no, kill the city. Yeah, they just got so into it. It was super fun. And then playing the game Flux, which is just the classic game of chaos. They're like, what are we doing? Oh my God, this is hilarious. And then speaking of Elizabeth Hargrave, Laura and I were playing Tussie Mussie last night.
Got it.
It's just, I love the sort of, it is the I cut you choose reduced to it's just fantastic. So
Yeah, we love that game.
yeah, it's
Uh,
so good.
I think one day we're just gonna have to have a Hargraves off.
Yeah.
Pull out Tussie Mussy, pull out the Fox Experiment, which is still in its shrink wrap.
Yeah. And
I think you need three. I think you need three people to really play it. Otherwise, you've got this mechanic in there that is. Anyway, we won't get into that.
yeah, no. So it was funny. My students played the game, and then I played the game last night with Laura. My students, we got within like, I don't know, let's say 15 cards,
Right.
which is not a good ending. And Laura and I got within one. And so I was telling my students, like, yeah, but Laura and I played this game like 60 plus times. So we understand how to, like, yeah. So,
Well,
but
I am curious to see what games get bought by the people in my group based on what we've taught.
yeah.
They were disappointed to find out that Wingspan doesn't have all those bits natively, all the upgrades that I have. That was, what is this cardboard stuff?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Sorry
yeah,
about that, y'all.
how that rolls.
Hmm.
Uh-huh. But but yeah, so and plus you've got, I guess pretty soon it'll be the end of the semester
It will be.
and you'll be talking about. So I actually want to, I know I know we're going to talk about a little bit, a few other things before we wrap here, but I know that you've got your special Maymester kind of thing coming up. Uh,
Yes.
and I think next time we get together, I'd love for you to maybe talk about sort of the process you went through in terms of curation,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
and all that. So maybe that'll be a good topic for that. I don't want to spoil it now. And
Well, I can tease it a little bit because again, one of my students works at the game store, and part of my process was to say, I could track down a bunch of these games in a bunch of different places, or because one of the managers at the boardwalk is a friend of the show. Like, it would save me a ton of time and effort if I just sent them a list and worked through that. And so now there's this, my student was like, yeah, I clicked on that tab on the work computer, was like, oh my God. So so that'll be pretty fun. I think there's like probably somewhere between 22 and 26 games on the list, and he's just like, man. So all of a sudden he wasn't sure he was going to take the May class. And now I think he's leaning a little harder into maybe I'll take that May class. So yeah. See how that goes.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. Well, we've had a few, a couple weeks ago, I was talking about how I had all these Kickstarters lining up like playing.
Uh-huh. I'm seeing this. Yeah. Ooh.
These have either already landed or and are in my house, or
Okay.
um, I have they'll be here tomorrow. So I felt like I
Wow.
was okay to put them on the list.
Yeah, yeah.
So, the first one I want to talk about is Inventions, the Evolution of Ideas, the latest Vita Lacerda game. I
Yeah.
took this to the game store last Sunday just to show people what a big Vita Lacerda game looks like.
Mm-hmm.
They were all very much intimidated by it, which was perfect. Exactly what I was going to go for. I told them they should use the gateway game, The Gallerist.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is still I
Yes.
mean, my God, it's the
Yes.
size
All
of
the
my
boxes are the
toddler.
same. It's funny.
Oh,
Eagle Griffin Games, the publisher of all the Vita Lacerda games. Um, I want to say he's in. It's really weird. It's like they're in Tennessee, they're in Arizona, but the guy is from Charlotte. The owner of the company is from Charlotte, and he went to the University of North Carolina at Charlotte.
oh wow.
And he's a friend of the store owner, and comes in there on occasion. I've been, would love to maybe catch up with him sometime and maybe get him on to chat with
Oh
us.
yeah.
It'd be my next foray into, hey, Jamie was here. Why can't you be here?
Yeah,
Anyway, so that arrived. A few others. Botany finally showed up.
I see
Um,
that. That looks
beautifully
amazing.
packaged, beautifully packaged. I think that's
Awesome.
going to be the one we
Did they
pull
get a
out.
scarf? Did you get a scarf for that, or just like dead
No
flowers, or
spark, but but the packaging's very robust and kind of unique.
okay,
So I've been
awesome.
real impressed with that. It's still in the shrink wrap. We will get it out. I think we're gonna do it. That's gonna be our new game of the week. And then fairies, magical creatures. It's been out in the stores for a while. Those of us who
So
got a
pretty.
certain tier had to wait, and it finally showed up.
Okay.
And then Foundations of Rome, the reprint, is finally shown up, and that's been kind of
Okay.
is showing up. It's actually that's what I'm waiting on. That's the 2 FedEx boxes. So I can only imagine what this is going to look like.
Whoa.
Well, it's funny. It's been slowly showing up in segments. First, there was the bag that you're going to
Well,
put it.
and that is just that. I mean, that is when we talk about overproduction. Wow. I think ZOMG was created for this, right?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So there was with this deal, you got the tabletop neoprene that goes with my tabletop game, my
Hmm.
game topper. So that
Hmm.
arrived, I want to say 6 months ago. And then the
Okay.
bag to carry the game around, and I think showed up around Christmas time. And now the game's finally getting.
Wow.
So
Well,
Foundation of Rome.
I hear, it's a solid game, over the top, but it's just so much fun to play in some ways because it's them over the top. So
Yeah, I think so. I think this is. I don't know if this will get a lot of tabletop play here in the house, but I think it will make it its way to the game store and say, "Let's." I don't know.
Mhm.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
it's good. It's good.
And then last on the list is Dog Park New Tricks.
That looks
Um,
super cute.
I was talking to Chris and Roberta, friends of the show, last night, and
Oh yeah.
they already got their copy. They're showing up
Oh,
early.
but it's supposed to be there
And
tomorrow for you.
yeah, and Chris was just kind of opening it up and showing the knickknacks on the inside from game trays that come with it. They just do a nice job of
Yeah.
packing the game and making it accessible and stuff. So um really looking forward to getting that. We like Dog Park. We're looking forward to the expansion, which actually allows you to add additional players, and that'll be nice too. So
Oh,
yeah. And
sweet.
then speaking of Chris and Roberta, we were just sort of talking about stuff last night, and this kind of goes back to what we were alluding to earlier about DMs that just sort of give up the game.
Oh
You know,
no.
we were kind of having the conversation around this idea, and I'm just going to kind of throw this out here because this is kind of the way I DM.
Yeah.
Is I don't want a great deal of granular specificity. I want a broad outline that gives me flexibility
Okay.
because I believe that being a good DM is just being able to say yes to
Right.
what your players want to try. As long as the dice goes in their favor, then you roll with it. Haha.
Hmm.
And, we were kind of talking about that in the context of Strahd in the sense that in our particular version of Strahd that we did, there were things that you guys never even did. You
Right.
never, you never went to the Amber Temple, for example.
Yeah. I have no
And,
idea what that.
and
Yeah.
but because the story arcs never led you there, and I refuse to railroad that you must go here before you can go there. So if
I appreciate
you
that.
miss something out of the story, but you get to the satisfying conclusion, that's okay. And I kind of feel like that, there was that famous episode of The Big Bang Theory where Penny's trying to teach Sheldon about improv, and she says improv is all about saying yes.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like
Yes, and yeah.
yeah, yeah, yes, yeah, exactly.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I think that is, and I only bring that up in the context of when you're a DM, you don't, there's planning you have to do. You have to kind of know what you want to do from an encounter standpoint and all this other stuff, but you also
For
got to be
sure.
able to say yes. And I think that's my thing about DMing. Anyway,
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't know
and
if,
I think kids are not, so I'm thinking about Sky and um others who are like, yeah, and then my DM dropped out because, they're 15, 16, 17,
yep,
and other shiny things attracted them because their brains aren't fully formed. And it's
yep.
like, yeah, no, I get that.
He's just
Um,
at the fumes,
yeah. Yeah. And yeah, you're
perfume and
like,
nicotine.
and yeah, but you're like, yeah, but it's hard for kids who are like, yeah, I really like to keep playing, but it's just not available because, yeah,
No, that makes sense.
yeah,
Well, I look forward to getting back together in a couple of weeks and hearing more about what you've got planned for May.
yeah. I'm terrified by what I have planned for May. I met with a game designer early this afternoon who I think is going to be on I'm going to have them in for a moment for the game class, and I'll get in touch with them about maybe talking about this podcast too.
That would be
But
great. I would love
yeah,
that.
yes,
All right. Well, James, that's all I have this week.
that's all I got, Joe.
Well, then, as usual, you are
I'm, we're
I don't
gonna
believe you
pause
here.
for really
Go
long.
ahead.
That's good.
It's been a hot minute. Okay.
It's all good, man.
So maybe you should head on over to Apple Podcast and give us 5 stars or
Please do.
maybe one less based on that horrible segue. But we are Also followable at our website, layitonthetable.show, where you can find links to your favorite podcast platform, whether it's Google, Spotify, Apple, etc. Which actually Google is no longer in existence, so it's now all YouTube podcast. Just
yeah.
for the nerds out there that know that I are one too, and I know that. We obviously have a guild at Laying on the Table at Board Game Geek, where you can also find aspects to this show, and of course you can find us on the YouTube at Geek and Southern is the official channel. And as per usual, I am Joe Mahaffey. I am not bored. I am board gaming.
And I am James Engelhart, and I hope that all your tiebreakers break your way.
We'll see you soon.
1, 2, 3,
See
4.
y'all.